This video is made for adult collectors because I won't stop sneezing. I quickly just wanted to point something out I noticed on Galaxy Shuttle like just now. This is why you don't paint hinges. Oh my god, it is like that on the other side. Not as bad, but like, bruh. That is unfortunate. Pain. So the last wave of Legacy United is an interesting one where it's mostly package refreshes and all redecos and retools. Why? Well, Hasbro decided to make an entire wave of figures that were hard to get, and Origins Bumblebee. I like this. I find Origins Bumblebee's inclusion kind of random, but it's funny. I like this. It means those who weren't able to get characters like Tarn or Galaxy Shuttle, they're now at mass retail or mass retail again to be a lot easier to get. And if you already have most of these, then you don't need to spend any money on this wave, so you can save this wave, which is great. I went in and pre-ordered these two, Wheeljack, Breakdown, and Cosmos, because I sold my original Cosmos to Kean Carlisle and I kind of wanted it again. I'm really happy about this wave, to be honest, and I'm glad I was able to get the figures I either missed out on or regretted selling. This is Overcharge and Galaxy Shuttle. One toy I wanted to get back, and the other toy I thought looked cooler than the original. These don't have any mold changes whatsoever other than their heads. Like Overcharged's head is a little bit different from Blitzwing's, and Galaxy Shuttle's head is different from Astro Train's. But like, there's no deco changes on Galaxy Shuttle. As far as I'm aware, he's like the original Velocitron release. It's exactly the same. I guess we'll start with Galaxy Shuttle because it doesn't have that much change over the original Galaxy Shuttle. He looks good, but because he is white, you can kind of see the difference between the palm and ABS and other plastics they're using. It's just the nature of white when you go to paint it or plastic color it. Normally, I really don't care, but here it's on the chest, so in certain lights, it's front and center and it looks a bit weird. It's something that just bugs me a little bit. Everything else, though, I like. I sold my original one and regretted it, so I'm glad to have this again. I know people are gonna comment, oh, Diamond Bolt this, and oh, Diamond Bolt that, and well, why doesn't he just tell you?
Yes, I know. Okay, I know.
But the white, the jet black, and the silver work very well here. The jet black doesn't actually eat the details because they're so pronounced, and they use a matte black paint, which will be a problem I will get to in a little bit. And the thighs look kind of like scaffolding, and I dig that. It's also a hefty toy too. It feels super nice in hand and surprisingly has a lot of paint on it. And like I said, that will come to bite it in the ass later. He has a tender, which is where I store all of the guns, but you can deck him out with all this stuff to beef him up a bit more. And I mean, I'll probably leave the shoes on to differentiate him from a bit more from Astro Train, but the wing pack looks a bit funky. I love the new head though, and the story behind how they got this head. You can check out Mark's Instagram post for that. I'll try and link it below if I can find it. Now, Overcharge. I like these colors way more than Blitzwing. It's that more dark, sort of like British Army green-esque color with the silvery gray. It functions so well here. That coupled with the blue sword and the blue head. I love the new head, by the way. The new head looks, it's so subtle, but I prefer it over Blitzwing's. Oh, and they pack the sword in this like little cardboard insert in the paper baggie so that it stays flat, which worked out mostly okay. Mine's still a tiny bit bent, but I do appreciate that. There isn't much else here that's different from Blitzwing, and that extends to the wings pegging into the legs, because on Blitzwing the wings didn't properly peg in, and here, same story. And if you look really close here, it looks like the peg and port at the back of the leg, there's just slightly not enough space for it to fit, and it pushes the wing out a little bit. I'll give it a shave down and it should be fine, but like, yeah, they didn't fix that. Oh, and he comes with the defunct Energon monster hands. Still don't know what I'm gonna do with them. So if you've messed with these molds before, there's pretty much no difference, but like, one thing I still want to touch on is just how limiting they feel. Why is the camera so high up? There we go. How limiting they feel. So we'll start with Galaxy Shuttle. The head is on a ball joint. You get some okay tilt, but it can rotate left and right. It's very stiff and hard to grip on my copy, but it's just, it's whatever. Shoulders, they can do a full 360. The wings get in the way. They can go in and out. You have bicep rotation, double jointed elbows, nothing at the wrist. You do have a waist joint. But the waist joint, you see how the wings, how far they hang down? That does limit where the legs can go when you're posing it, which can be a tiny bit annoying. Hip skirts can move out of the way. The hips can go forward. They can go back about that far. You have it in and out. You have thigh rotation, which on this side sometimes will like to twist itself off. It's not doing it now because the camera's on, but you know, it likes to twist itself off. You do have a little under 90 degrees of bend at the knee, and the knee is so high up that like it doesn't really accomplish much, which is like the one big limiting thing that I don't like about this figure. And then really stiff ankle tilts, but he has ankle tilts. So Galaxy Shuttle is pretty okay. It's just the wings bump into the legs and the knees are really high. When we get to the Blitzwing mold, though, with Overcharge, I still am not a fan of these shoulders. They're okay. And the head sits a little bit too far forward, but you have a hinge and a neck joint that can look up that far. So he can look up quite a bit. He can't really look down that much. You get a tiny bit of tilt, but, you know, full rotation, which is nice. And it's easy to grip because there's no pauldrons in the way. You have the shoulder pads that move forward. The arms can go forward just about 90 degrees, not back at all. In and out. You have a bicep rotation, a little over 90 degrees of bend at the elbow, wrist swivels. You do have a waist joint. Hips can go forward. They can't really go back that far. In and out, thigh rotation. You have a little bit over 90 degrees of bend at the knee, and I love the way that they add detail to the knee joint. Like the knee joint kind of comes out a little bit, which is very cool. And then he has the world's biggest ankle pivot. So everything's fine on him except for the shoulders, and everything's fine on him except for like the knees and a little bit of the hips. So it's just strange when it comes to like messing with them. So yeah, not much different from their originals, Astro Train and Blitzwing, but the colors make me like these a lot better. Now, for the transformations, because these are molds I've either talked about before or molds we've seen a bajillion times already, I'm not going to like uber detail them. I'm probably going to skip one and then go to the other and skip the other and, you know. So I'm not going to walk you through the entire transformations of both of these because they're triple changer leader class toys that have pre-existing molds that I have talked about. Actually, I don't think I've talked about the Astro Train mold at all. I could be wrong. I've made over 1,000 videos, but we'll start with him actually because there's a big problem that I alluded to in the intro to this video. So going into train mode, you want to fold these back. Now, if you notice, all of this, well, not all of it, but almost all of this black is paint, right? Feet painted, these painted, the wings painted, this bit underneath the booster painted, this part painted. Like it is all painted, and it's all painted on Astro. Where is he? It's all painted on Astro Train as well. However, Astro Train uses this like glossier paint, which looks a little thinner, and so I've had this thing for like 2 and a bit years now, and I've messed with it a lot, and there's no chipping on it whatsoever. However, Galaxy Shuttle uses that more matte black paint. And that matte color, I find, is a little bit rougher and thicker of a coat than the glossy stuff, and it chips. Now, my previous version of Galaxy Shuttle had chipping right here at the toes. My buddy I sold it to, I told him, like, there's chipping at the toes, and he didn't seem to care. He still bought it off me. But it did chip here. I'm being careful with it this time, because when you shove this into here, if you notice right there, it is actually starting to chip where the toes rub against the little panel piece when you're closing them up. So you got to go like real slow, and I sort of like push these back a bit so they don't rub that much against this, but you get that done, and then we'll get the arms here folded up because there's another spot of paint chipping that I talked about in the intro that I want to talk about a little bit further. I also just noticed it's chipping here and here from the legs being folded in, so that's a bit unfortunate. Now, one issue I have with my copy of Galaxy Shuttle, this copy, because it didn't happen on my previous one, is the wings don't like to stay collapsed here. Like these bits don't like pegging in. I really gotta force it into place, and they still sit at a little bit of an angle, whereas on Astro Train they sit flush. I don't know what's causing that, but here's where we get to the big paint chip issue once I get this rotated around here. There we are. These hinges, as you can see, they are horrifically paint chipped. Oh my goodness. I just noticed this today too. Which oh look, there's like, I don't know how well you're gonna be able to see this. You can't? But there's like black paint coming off on the table. Where's more? Oh, there's more right here at the front. There's black paint on the table. That's great. But yeah, the friggin' it does that. Like on Astro Train, again, these same hinges are painted, but because they're glossy, they don't really scratch. I think they have a coating on the gloss. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know how they paint their figures, but like this because it's that matte finish, it it looks like that after a little bit, and that is a little bit unfortunate. Now, I'm not a person who gets bothered that much by paint chipping. Like, this is big and egregious and it looks weird, but like little dings and knocks, I don't really care. But I have friends who would care, and I know there's more people out there who would really care about that. So that is something to make note of if you buy Galaxy Shuttle over Astro Train, if you want to try this mold. This one will probably hold up a lot better than this one, at least in my experience. I've done a video on Blitzwing already, and I'm not going to walk you through it. I'm not going to bore you with that. It's already going to be too long with this thing, and there's like other modes, and there's stuff in the jet mode I want to talk about with this guy over this guy, so he's dead now. Yeah, this copy of Galaxy Shuttle I have has some fit issues the first couple of times, but otherwise, yeah, both are pretty smooth still. The Blitzwing penis thing is still there, but it's never really bothered me that much, so I don't care. I do like how the tender attaches to the back of the train and making it feel a lot larger. Like, that is a nice train mode, even if it is a bit thick at the front. And the hands could peg into the tank to be missile pods, which I think works pretty well. Now, flight. This time we're going to use Overcharge as our transformation thing, as opposed to Train Idiot. And again, it's pretty much just, you know, Blitzwing's transformation. There's no difference. However, on Overcharge, I actually noticed something better than on Blitzwing. So right here, at least on my copy, right, when you get all this, the kibble stuff folded up, and you collapse all this down, on my Blitzwing, these don't really like to stay in place now, and they just sort of, like, they don't click. You hear that click? That snap? They don't do that. They just sort of fit in place, and then these like to flop a little bit in alt mode if they become unpegged. But here on Overcharge, they are so incredibly solid. It's really nice. And then you just flip this section up, bring this entire assembly up, don't unpeg it. Then you open up the legs, flip out the tail fins, unfold the wings, like that. Then we peg the legs back together. Another thing I like about Overcharge over Blitzwing is on Blitzwing, I needed a tool to get this out because there was just so much grip between this hinge that I couldn't use the thumb section to pull the nose cone out. But now they've done it so that the nose cone just comes out. This is so much nicer to do than on Blitzwing. It's great. Then we are going to bring this down and shift the arms back. Ow! Then we're going to take this entire section here and peg it in to the bottom of the arms somehow as it comes unclicked. Get all this situated here. Pegging this together can be a bit of an annoying thing. There we are. Then you bring that forward. The turret's backwards. Rotate the turret. Bring these sections forward. And there you have Overcharge. I love how the colors, like that's just a big triple changer thing for me. If the triple changer doesn't swap its color palette when it transforms, I don't think it succeeds properly as a triple changer, personally, unless it's a movie figure, because that's a bit different. The giant hands don't really do much interesting for Overcharge here, but Galaxy Shuttle's tender comes apart and it can become a launch pad with base connectors, which is very epic. The back of the shuttle does have a bit of a messy spot, which breaks up the alt mode visually, but not enough to like bother me. I know it bugs some, but I don't really care. And then there's Overcharge's jet kibble. Yeah, it's a lot. It isn't great still. But in the end, I still like these two. Galaxy Shuttle would be a definite recommend for me because of how hard he was to get at the time, and he looks cool, but that paint chipping thing it's unfortunate. It is there. Overcharge, this is the third time this mold has come out in the Legacy line, and 2 out of 3 modes work for me. I can see him going on sale though, so at that point I would say he's a pickup, like for sure, if you can get him for less than retail. If you already have Blitzwing, I don't think it's necessary to have this unless you like the Diaclone stuff. And if you were skeptical before, these colors might sway you, but I don't think they'll sway most people enough. But that's my look at Overcharge and, what's his name? Galaxy Shuttle, that's it. Almost said Blitzwing. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.